welcome to Feelings and Other F Words. I'm Dr. Daryl Appleton, psychotherapist, executive coach, and a woman who once cried in a parking lot for 45 minutes after receiving good news, which is relevant, but we're not there yet. We will get there. Before I dive into what this week's F word is, I need to give you one of the most astounding pieces of research that I think I've come across so far. Most of the elite firms in the world, the McKinseys, the Goldmans, the one who have the marble and the statues in the lobby, they have a hiring profile. And there is a name for that hiring profile. What they are looking for and what researchers have named it is called the insecure overachiever. This is somebody who is exceptionally capable. They are fiercely ambitious, and underneath it all, shocker, they are driven by a profound sense of their own inadequacy. This was studied by Laura Epson, who is a professor at Bayes Business School in London, and she spent years and about 500 interviews inside firms like this documenting it. One HR director told her, essentially, the strategy works like this. You find a person who needs to be told that they are special, and you tell them that they are special. And from that moment on, they will do anything to keep hearing it. Anything. 70-hour weeks, answering emails in the delivery room, and you possibly right now listening to this on 1.5 speed because a podcast at regular speed feels like falling behind. Now, here's the part that should really get your attention. The supply of this person is growing. Between 1989 and 2016, socially prescribed perfectionism and the belief that other people will only accept you if you are perfect rose about 32% in young people. 32, and this is from a meta-analysis of over 41,000 college students by Thomas Cran and Andrew Hill. So what I'm hearing is this. Firms know exactly the type and profile of person they're looking for. High achievers with an insecurity kick. The market is growing for this. There are more perfectionists out there. There are more people that fit this dynamic. And buyers know exactly what you are starving for. So this is why burnout continues to rise in some aspects, maybe not all, but it is incredibly important that we understand that the hunger is expanding and people know that we are hungry for it. And that's why today's F word is about famished. This is an episode about the appetite of achievement that was supposed to feed us, but never really does. We'll be talking about who built it, who profits from it, and what the F to do about it. So I want to tell you about a client. Details are changed, you know the drill, everything. She calls me on a Tuesday. She has been named partner, and it's the thing that she's been chasing for 11 years. 11 years of red-eye flights, missed birthdays, being the last car in the parking garage. And she calls me and tells me that she got the call, like the actual call, the one that she has been thinking about and rehearsing in the shower for almost a decade. She then goes on to tell me that the feeling of euphoria lasted about 90 minutes. 90. Not 90 days, not even a full afternoon, 90 minutes. Literally by dinner, she was Googling what it takes to make the management committee. She was already on to the next thing. And she said it to me. I wrote it down because it was just so perfect. Hold on. She said, quote, I think I felt relief. I don't think I felt joy. And I'm already hungry again. That got me right there. I'm already hungry again. And that's really where this entire episode is centered around. Because here's what I need you to understand before we go a step further. This client of mine, who I love and adore, and I aggressively cheer on in whatever she is pursuing, she's not broken. And neither are you. She is running exactly the program that we were given on hardware that we were wired early for. We are literally in a system that feeds off this hunger. And guess what? Systems can be studied. So let's study it. So when we start, we need to start in the brain first, because the wanting of achievement itself, it has a biology. It stems from a place. In the 1900s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz did a series of experiments. The famous ones are usually from around late 1990s, so around 1997, I think was the most famous one, on dopamine neurons in primates. And it was understanding the reward system. I'm sure you've heard of this now because we've been talking about it a lot more, but basically he found that dopamine, as it turns out, is not really the chemical of getting a thing. It's the chemical of predicting the thing. Neurons fire hardest for the gap between what you expected and what you got. And scientists call it reward prediction error. Now, translation, too long didn't read. Basically, your brain is not built to enjoy the win. It's built to anticipate the win, which means the moment of promotion actually landing, neurologically speaking, the party's already over. You got what you wanted. It no longer feels how you thought it would feel. The dopamine has moved on to the next prediction. And your own reward system is basically the friend who leaves the wedding during the toast because she heard there's a better party across town. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Now, there's a psychological layer on top of the biology. So we have our dopamine. We know that we are more drawn, or the feeling is more in the wanting or the pursuing or the goal chasing than it is the actual achieving. But the psychology on top of it adds a little bit more thickness to the sauce, so to speak. So in 2001, Jennifer Crocker and Connie Wolf published a paper in the Psychological Review that I genuinely believe every high performer should be handed along with their first business cards. Truly, I'm making a petition, a call for it now. And really and truly, it talks about this idea of contingencies of self-worth. And the argument is this. The interesting question about self-worth or self-esteem is not whether it's high or low, it's where it's staked. Some people stake their values on being virtuous, some on being loved, some stake it on God. Some stake it on family. Some stake it on being attractive. And some of us, hello, welcome, hi, I saved you a seat, stake the entire portfolio on achievement. High. Here's why that matters. When your worth is contingent on achievement, every task stops being a task. The pitch deck is not a pitch deck. The pitch deck then becomes a referendum on whether or not you deserve to exist. And that seems really harsh, but that's really what it is psychologically. The email you're rewriting a million different times, it's not communication. It's almost a negotiation with your own adequacy. And Cocker's research showed that people staked this way, and they staked this experience with bigger emotional spikes from success and bigger crashes from failure in the exact domain that they're staked, which is why the stakes are always felt to be life or death. It's why you can't relax. It's why it's just feedback has never once worked on you. It's just too intense. Now, you might be asking the question that I asked of, well, where does the staking come from? And I have to be honest with you about the state of the evidence, because that's what we do here. The most famous account is Alice Miller's from her 1979 book, The Drama of the Gifted Child, which sounds as dramatic as it is. Miller described that the child who figures out very young that love in their house was not unconditional. It arrived when they performed. Good grades, good behavior, being easy, being impressive. They became the small achievement machine. And the machine got love as its output. And 40 years later, this child is managing a director who cannot stop texting them on a Sunday, right? I want to flag this really clearly that this is clinical theory. It's not data. Nobody randomized children into a loved unconditionally or loved anyway, because that would be monstrous. But what I can tell you as a clinician and a background in mental health is that I've sat across from grown-up children more times than I can count. And what I can also tell you is that the trend points exactly where Miller pointed. If you remember Coran and Hill from before that we talked about, the fastest growing form of perfectionism is the socially prescribed kind. It's the felt demand that others require you to be perfect. 41,000 students, 27 years of data, 32% rise. It's robust. And the conditional love economy is not shrinking. It is scaling. So the wiring is real. The next question is about the episode. And is this an addiction? And here I'm going to do the annoying clinical thing because it's really the honest thing. Success addiction is not a diagnosis. You're not going to find it in the DSM. And the phrase comes mostly from essays. It's not from diagnostics. When the wellness internet throws the word addiction at everything from sugar to spin class, the word stops meaning anything. And I think that's important. But there is a really rich literature that sits right next to this. And it's literature on workaholism. In 2016, Melissa Clark and her colleagues published a meta-analysis in the Journal of Management, and they pulled together workaholism across dozens of studies. And they found that workaholism tracks with burnout, job stress, real-life conflict, and declining physical and mental health. No surprises, right? No one's surprised this far. But here's the thing that should stop you. Workaholism was essentially unrelated to conscientiousness. Sit with that, right, for 1 second. The compulsive relationship to work had almost nothing to do with being a diligent, organized, hardworking person. Those are different constructs, which means the thing you have been calling work ethic may not actually be your work ethic. It may be a compulsion that is just wearing the costume of work ethic. One of them is a value, and the other of them is a hunger, the one that we're talking about. And from the outside, they look identical. Where the addiction analogy genuinely holds up is in tolerance. In substance use, tolerance means you need a bigger dose for the same effect. In achievement, we call it hedonic adaptation. You adapt to the new title, to the new number in your bank account, to the new house. And the emotional return on each win shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. So the next goal has to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Tal Ben-Shahar coined a lovely term for the movement that has become undeniable. And he calls it the arrival fallacy, the belief that you will finally feel it when you get there. And it collides with the discovery that there is no there. I struggle with this myself of I'm always looking for the next thing, the next milestone. And really, because we flag our fragile studies on the show instead of laundering them, the citation everyone reaches for is the 1970 Brigham study, the one claiming that lottery winners end up no happier than anyone else. That study is small, it's old, it's contested. And if you hear someone cite it as settled fact, as I have probably in the past before I dove deeper into it, you need to adjust things accordingly. The broader adaptation on the literature is on much firmer ground than its most famous study. The finding, it does survive. The folklore version doesn't. So here's the diagnostic question that the science actually begs, and I want you to answer it. I don't want you to admire it. I want you to think for yourself. When was the last time an achievement made you feel full for longer than a week? Not relieved, full. If you're scrolling back years trying to find one, the problem isn't that you never had an appetite. It's that you've been feeding it the wrong thing. Let's talk about what famished looks like in the wild, because it doesn't look like desperation. It truly looks like excellence, but it is a disguise. So scene 1, act 1, right? The promotion that digests in an hour. My client, you get the news, you call your mom, you call your partner, you call your executive coach, you call your group chat. And somewhere between the second and the fifth phone call, you notice that you're performing joy rather than feeling it, because the feeling has already left. By the time congratulations, flowers arrive, or people wanting to meet up for that drink, the version of you that was joyful has long moved on. The flowers literally might say congratulations on your new baseline rather than congratulations on the promotion, because that's what you have done. You have just started on a new baseline. Scene number 2, act 1, the check, the numbers on the check. Everyone has one. The comp figure, the revenue dashboard, the downloaded stats, the follower count, the class rank of a child who did not consent to be on your scoreboard. You can check it any capacity of any part in your life. This doesn't just apply to work. And we check this the way an anxious person checks their phone. It's not information, but it becomes regulation. So watch yourself do it this week. Watch yourself check your bank account. Watch yourself check your follower account or your likes. You're not gathering data. You're just messing with your blood pressure because you are acting in a compulsive manner rather than one that has an outcome that's going to lead somewhere. We can only call it data collection for so long. Scene 3, Act 1. The compliment that bounces. So somebody senior, somebody you respect tells you your work was great, it was exceptional, and doesn't land for you. It physically doesn't land, it emotionally doesn't land. Yes, we can call this a little bit of imposter syndrome, but it really kind of hits some of these like Teflon layers that high performers have, and it just slides off. While that one piece of criticism from 2017 still has a corner office in your head. We call it humility a lot of times, but it's not. It's not humility. It's almost malnutrition. It's a starving system that can't absorb the nutrients even when they're being served. Love that analogy because it makes so much sense. Scene 4. Maybe you've seen yourself in this scene, the vacation. You've made it to the beach. You've done it. I'm not a beach person, but maybe you are. You've made it to the beach. Your body is physically on the beach. And on day 2, you catch yourself feeling something that if you were honest, you would have to call it withdrawal. You are probably restless, irritable, checking the phone in the bathroom like it's contraband. You out of office says like, oh my God, I'm recharging. But your nervous system is not feeling that way. You are not feeling recharged, which sidebar, I am starting a whole other side quest looking at restorative travel because I think that this is a piece that we do not discuss enough. We are doing the thing, we are checking the boxes to rest and recharge, but guess what? We're just going through detox. And by the time we get detox, we're back into the system that keeps us in that state of survival all over again. And it's a never-ending system or cycle. Sidebar, back on track, next scene. And this one's a bit quieter, right? This is the Sunday afternoon. Nothing's due. Nobody needs you. And instead of peace, there's a hum. To me, it's like a hum, right? And it's almost dread that you can't explain to anybody who doesn't have it. But it's really, in my mind, that your worth is staked entirely on output. And then there's a day without output, and it's not rest. It's a complete identity crisis, and you're just looking for ways to optimize. Now, if you found yourself in more than 2 of these scenarios, these scenes, I want you to keep listening. Actually, if you found yourself checking whether you found yourself in more of them rather than others, you definitely want to keep listening. So here's where me and the wellness internet break that tells you the same thing over and over again. Just want less. Have a gratitude journal. Slow down. Your ambition is toxic, babe. Like, did you ever try sourdough? You should try to make some sourdough, right? Like that's not it. That's the wrong diagnosis. It's the wrong prescription. And honestly, it's insulting. Not because sourdough and gratitude journals aren't amazing, but because the drive isn't the disease. Ambition per se is not the pathology. Some of the most alive, most generative, most joyful people I've ever worked with are fiercely ambitious, and no amount of sourdough is going to beat that out of them. The issue is not how much you want, it's the wanting. That's the thing. Wanting a bigger life is healthy. Asking for a bigger life to retroactively convince your nervous system that you were lovable in 1994 is not a job wanting can do. That's not ambition. That is a hostage situation. And it usually comes with like manifestations and a vision board, right? So we're talking about the whys underneath. I don't want you to lean out or to lean in. I want you to ask yourself some really hard questions. And there's data, right? And it might be some of my favorite scientific data in the last decade. In 2010, Daniel Kahneman and Agnes Deaton published the famous finding that emotional well-being rises with income, but it plateaus around $75,000 a year. Now again, this is 2010. Take it with a grain of salt. You've probably heard that number at a dinner party. People have talked about it. But then in 2021, Matthew Killingsworth published the opposite. No plateau. There's none. Happiness kept climbing with income right up the scale. Now, these are 2 credible findings. They are in direct contradiction. And instead of them like subtweeting each other for a decade, which is now the standard protocol in academia, they did something unheard of. They ran a collaboration and they reanalyzed the data together and they published a joint answer in 2023, which I love. Here is the answer. For most people, they found that happiness does keep rising with income. There is no plateau. But for the least happy people, roughly the unhappiest fifth, money helps only to about $100,000. And then the line goes flat. So for people who carry real misery, whatever is wrong, past that point, you cannot fix with money. Do you see what that means? And maybe specifically for you, money truly is a mirror. If more keeps working for you, it's wonderful. That's enjoyable. It's pleasurable. But if you keep raising the number and the feeling never arrives, the number is measuring now the deficit, if that makes sense. So the unhappy minority suggests that people staring hardest into that mirror are the exact people that it can help the least. So more is not medicine in this case, more is anesthesia. If your baseline is unhappy, if there is something underlying that is keeping you hostage, money is not going to fix it. Which kind of goes back to what we were talking about before of if you need recognition because you translate that to love, it's not going to come in a healthy manner unless you fix what's underneath. And there's one more thing, because it matters to how you consume every headline for the rest of your life. Notice what happened there. 2 scientists disagreed in public and then sat down to figure it out together about who was right with what. That to me truly is what real science looks like. It corrects itself. The wellness industry, it will not surprise you to learn, has never once issued a recall. I'm just saying. And many of us out there are not collaborating on these things. Instead, we're pointing fingers and pointing blame. So be collaborative. So what do we do about this? I'm going to give you 4 things because I think this requires 4. 1 for today, 1 for this month, and 1 that requires another human being, and 1 for the long term. And as always, they have names because that's what I like to do. So step 1 today, this is going to be your digestion window. The next time something goes right, anything, a win, a compliment, a signed deal, you are going to do the hardest thing I have ever asked you to do. Nothing. You're going to do nothing for 90 seconds before you screenshot it, share it. And I know you, before you convert it into the baseline for the next goal, I see you. You sit with it and you let it land. Like feel it in your actual body. 90 seconds, that's it. Just let it digest. Your dopamine neurons have already moved on to the next prediction window. The digestion window is on purpose, and it's refusing for you to follow those neurons just yet. You're teaching your starving system that food is allowed to be eaten, not just acquired, right? We're sticking with that analogy. I'm staying with it firm. Step 2, this month, what I want you to do is something I like to call a portfolio audit. And this comes straight out of Cocker's research. Worth that's staked in one domain is fragile. And that goes for your portfolio, literally, that goes from your time. But worth that's spread across domains is truly resilient. So I want you to do this. 1 page, 2 columns. First column, where is my worth currently invested? And I want you to be brutal. If 90% of it is achievement, write 90%. Second column, what would a diversified portfolio look like? Friendship, faith, craft, body, being somebody's person. I don't know. I'm making this up. I want you to write all that down in the second column. And this is the part that separates insight from anything that's like decorative. I want you to pick 1, hear me, 1 non-achievement domain and it as recurring time on a calendar. Unmonetized, unoptimized, unposted time. If it produces a deliverable, it does not count. So again, you're going to audit once a month, 1 page, 2 columns. 1 is where am I currently investing my worth into and at what percentage? And the second column is What does a diversified portfolio look like? What do I want it to have with it? And what you're going to do from there is you're going to take one non-deliverable. Again, if it produces an outcome, if it produces a deliverable, it does not count, and you put it on the calendar. So for me, I've started taking Mondays when I can. Usually it happens like once or twice a month. I block off my Monday mornings, especially in the summer, because I live in New England. So I go down by the water and I read a book that is nonsense. I'm not learning anything. I'm solving a murder mystery from the Gilded Age or whatever, following Dan Brown around in his, latest whatever. I'm not doing anything else, right? There is no output. And I have posted about it, and I need to stop because that's not what it's about. The next one I want you to do, step 3, is with the someone else. This is going to be the unimpressed hour. And I want you to spend 1 hour this month with somebody who cannot be easily impressed by you. Not somebody critical, not somebody that's going to make you feel less than, but somebody who knew you before you were the you today. This might be somebody who knew you as a kid or an elderly relative, a dog, frankly, like anybody that is structurally incapable of caring about what you do for a living in the most loving way possible. And while you're there, I want you to run an experiment. Tell a story about failure, but don't attach that redemption arc thing that we like to do. No, but it taught me so much. Just talk about the failure and let it sit there and watch what happens to what it does to your body. It's going to be uncomfortable. And that is hopefully rewiring a contradiction, being witnessed without performing and surviving it. Now, step 4 is the long arc. This is the long term. This is the enough line. I want you to write down in numbers and words, you're going to hate this, too bad, what enough actually is. The income that is enough. The title that is enough. The size of life that is enough. Date it, sign it. I'm serious about the signature. I really am. If you're the kind of person that honors things that you sign, let's use that. Let's use that to our benefit here, because here's what I know about you, because I know it about me. Your finish line has been walking away from you at exactly your own pace for your entire life. And nobody can put a nail in the ground for it. Nobody can anchor it but you. The enough line, I don't want you to think of it as a ceiling on your ambition. I want you to think of it more as a floor under your worth. You can still build past it, but you should just stop the needing to build past it. And that to me is a hard one, but an incredibly important one. So here's what we're going to do. Here's your field note. Write it somewhere where you can see it on a Sunday afternoon after you've listened to this. You were never hungry for more. You were hungry for something more that was invented to distract you. I want you to feed the things that actually you hunger for. And I want you to watch how quiet wanting gets, because the most successful people I know are not the ones who have the most. They are truly the ones that have figured out what they are actually starving for. And honestly, had the nerve to eat it. That, my friends, is our episode on Famished. If this one hit a nerve, I'm going to do a companion essay that goes deeper in my Substack, an Appleton a Day Substack. Let me know what your thoughts are if you have felt this at all. Next time, another F word, another thing you thought was a personality trait that turns out to be a research thing. I can't wait to break it all down with you. I'm Dr. Daryl Appleton. Go eat something real. Till next time.